He drops out after a catastrophic debate performance, and they set Kamala Harris up to fail. That was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough?
It was too long. It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
Sure, it's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone and didn't like them.
If they had a primary, they wouldn't have picked her. And if they had, she would have been able to rough out those edges that then she basically has to start from scratch with a campaign team she didn't hire that didn't like her, right? It was his team.
In this segment, we see something pretty surprising. Bill Maher, who's usually known for being strongly left-leaning, takes a sharp turn and challenges a couple of his very progressive guests on real time. And he doesn't hold back. When even Maher starts saying, "This has gone too far," it's a clear sign that something's off in the mainstream narrative. What makes this even more interesting is that the same people who used to mock conservatives for questioning elections are now doing the exact same thing themselves. For years, conservatives have voiced concerns about election integrity, asking for things like voter ID and clear, more secure voting procedures. In response, they were often labeled as extremists or worse. But now, some of these progressive voices are suddenly worried about shady behavior in elections too. And believe it or not, they're pointing fingers at Trump again, claiming he's somehow behind it all. It's quite the shift, especially considering they used to call him incompetent. Now he's being portrayed as some sort of mastermind. The contradiction is hard to ignore. Back to the main moment. Maher doesn't just question his guests, he really challenges them. While they come armed with the usual slogans and talking points, Maher cuts through it. He points out the inconsistencies, calls out the exaggerations, and basically says what a lot of everyday folks across the political spectrum are thinking but don't always feel comfortable saying out loud. So if you're someone who's felt like common sense has taken a backseat in a lot of today's debates, this clip might be a breath of fresh air. It's a moment where someone on the left says, "Enough is enough," and speaks plainly, even if it ruffles feathers on his own side. Now, let's take a closer look at that moment when Maher flips the script and puts some much-needed pressure on the woke narrative, live on national TV. Get ready.
How's the thing? Everything the candidates, especially the Democrats, do to get voters annoys them. The constant texting. Did you get the texts like from Tim Walz every 5 minutes, and like always begging for money and knocking on doors? We've got people knocking on doors. People don't want knocking on your door. Who in this day and age wants someone knocking on? Kids don't even like it when a phone call. That's like too much of a invasion of their privacy, which they don't care about. Who might emerge as the strongest Democratic opposition leader in the next Trump era? Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, like Adam Schiff, he won, right? Big. And
he won, but I like Westmore.
Westmore's fantastic. He's in Maryland.
Yep.
But who's going to be the one? Gavin Newsom we have here in this state. He's already like called the legislature to. Trump hasn't done anything yet, but I understand the.
This was the problem. There was a 2014 study that showed that Fortune 500 companies were more likely to pick a female CEO if the company was struggling, basically setting women up for the big job, but to also fail. If they did well, fine. But if they failed, like, look, we have a female CEO while failing. And that's what I feel like they did to Kamala Harris. When Biden refused to step aside and not run again, he was supposed to be that bridge. He backed off on that promise due to arrogance. And then...
Let's clear this up. The idea that the Democratic Party was forced to pick Kamala Harris just doesn't make sense. They had plenty of candidates and chose her willingly. If the party's leaders are supposed to be savvy strategists, why would they back someone they believe would fail? If she was a guaranteed problem from the start, wouldn't they have picked someone stronger? It's just not logical to say they knowingly went with someone who couldn't win. That kind of thinking doesn't hold up. Now, about the claim that companies only hire women CEOs when they're in crisis. Even if that happens sometimes, the reason's probably simple. After a string of bad leadership, boards might be ready to try something new. Hiring a woman at that point isn't sabotage. It's a last-ditch move to fix things. But instead of seeing this for what it is, some people push the idea that it's part of a bigger plot to set women up to fail. That's not real analysis. It's just more identity-driven outrage. It ignores how real decisions get made in politics and business. When everything is filtered through the lens of victimhood, it's easy to see oppression everywhere, even when it's not there.
I think that is a very high degree of difficulty put on anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I tend to agree with Sarah that probably in a fully litigated primary, she probably would not have been the Democratic nominee, but will never know that. But I will tell you that, there's never been anybody who's had the difficulty of that situation, elevated that late in the campaign. Why?
Democrat would have needed to run away from
Bill,
the
I don't know
Biden
if you know this, but the Vice President of the United States is basically shoved in a broom closet for 3.5 years.
I know.
You couldn't.
She was more popular in there.
Yes, well.
I mean, this idea that the idea in a mass media age that 107 days is not long enough to know somebody.
You are way overestimating the American people in terms of what their ability. No. You have someone like Donald Trump has become a universally known, understood, loved by some, hated by others over the course of being omnipresent for 8 years.
Okay.
Barack Obama becomes president of the United States after running for 2 years as president, runs a 50-state primary, is on television, does dozens of Democratic debates.
The debate heated up fast. No surprise there. The two sides couldn't agree on anything, and it only got more intense from there. As expected, Bill Maher jumped in with his signature sharp commentary and really took control of the conversation. He didn't just hold his own. He completely outmatched his guest. It wasn't even close. If you enjoy this kind of back and forth and sharp political breakdowns, this one's definitely worth a watch. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming takes and deep dives. Now, let's get back to the video.
Okay, but I don't know if you ever watched this show, but I had Michael Douglas on this week.
Yeah.
At the top, we were talking about this, and he made a very good point that every other country in the world can do it in months, sometimes weeks. Why can every other country do it in that short a period of time? Are they all so much brighter than America? I don't think so.
Well,
mostly parliamentary. I mean, there's literal reasons, right? We don't have a parliamentary system.
I mean,
we also have a First Amendment. We don't make people campaign this whole time. The American people want to give them $20, and so they can afford it. I mean, small dollar donors are arguably the worst thing that's happened to our politics, as it turned out.
It's a small dollar donor didn't make $20 billion. No.
A lot of it.
Some of it, yeah.
And it represents about 2% of our country.
There's a few special PACs in there that saw $100 million plus.
Those are bad too.
I think you can believe that you could have shorter elections in America, but it's not like we don't know. In Britain, for instance, when you have a short election, it's not like you don't know who the leader of the party is for months and years before that.
But you're either the person who's Googling the day before, did Biden drop out, or in a week. Did anyone in this audience not know enough about Kamala Harris pretty much after a week to make a decision? No. Yeah, people.
How are you going to enforce that?
We just get sicker of them.
What? So
how are you going to tell people they can't talk about politics?
What?
How with free speech that I know you love?
Yeah.
How are you going to limit people's ability to run for office?
I'm not limiting. We're not making a law.
Bill Maher was on fire in this episode of Real Time. Now, I don't always see eye to eye with him. Some days he's hit or miss. But this time, he absolutely nailed it. His take on how to fix American politics was one of the clearest and most practical I've heard in a while. Get rid of lobbyists, ban third-party donations, and make sure politicians are only paid by their government salaries. No outside cash, no hidden deals. Just a clean system where elected officials actually serve the people. Sounds simple enough, right? But here's the reality check. Even in a perfect setup, corruption has a way of sneaking in. Quiet favors, off-the-record deals. That's politics as usual, unfortunately. What really made this episode stand out, though, was how Maher handled the two far-left guests sitting across from him. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you their names. And it didn't matter. Their takes were so extreme, it was tough to take them seriously. Maher wasn't having it. He cut through the noise with calm, direct points and completely dismantled their arguments. No shouting, no theatrics, just straight facts. So, what did you think? Was Maher right to call them out? And more importantly, do you believe there's any real way to fix the system we've got, or is it too broken to repair? Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. And if you're into honest takes and political breakdowns like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.